Professor Teller here. This is part 3 of my Persuasive Speaking Lecture series. And in the comfort of my own home, sans the husband, the kids, and well, for now, Tui. If you don't know what I say you don't know what I mean when I say Tui, then you didn't watch part 2. Now did you? Okay. Let's talk about the 5 different types of arguments. Why? Well, because part 1 focused on the methods that you use in order to these are the traditional and modern appeals, okay? And this is the type of personality-oriented, driven strategy you will use. And then part 2 really tore up what is an argument. It's built, it's like a bridge, and we went over that. Now we're going to talk about, in our 3rd and final part of this lecture series, the different types of arguments, okay? Now that we've established one very critical fact, and that is you need to take your personality, your persuasive topic, and you need to organize and build a strategy that flows very smoothly. It needs to match your aggressive personality or passive personality, your ability to reason with logic, or your ability to play on emotion. I mean, all of this needs to flow, and that's why it's very critical for you to make up your mind what your topic is and have a personal relationship with your topic. There needs to be a fire in your belly, and you need to really have substantial reason to argue this specific point to an audience of peers. Argument by deduction. This is where you can have several different general statements that prove what your persuasive argument is stating is factual. There can be several statements and they all come to the same conclusion. And when you give that to your audience, when you can pull all these different statements out of the air and they all point to one, there's like a common denominator is your persuasive topic, right? And so that's the argument by deduction. Okay, whereas you're certain, and the reason why you're certain is because, the common denominator points, all of these different statements have a common denominator. The argument by induction is more of a predicting probability situation. Okay, you're predicting, you're going to argue that something is likely going to be based on specific cases. And usually we use this in our life. Almost every day do we sit here and have arguments with people by induction, okay, building on existing cases, existing information. And I'll give you an example. If you take out a piece of bread and it's moldy, okay, it all came in the same loaf, and you take out another piece and it's got green stuff on it, okay, you obviously are not going to eat it, and if you keep pulling out pieces of bread, it's all going to be moldy. So why would you think otherwise? Now, if you get to the very end of the loaf and it's not moldy, just because it doesn't have green on it doesn't mean it's not going to taste moldy or stale. Okay, so this is argument by induction. It's probably stale even though it doesn't have green on the piece of bread. Okay, the first 3 pieces of bread have green on it, and that's mold, but the whole loaf is stale and moldy. And you probably have figured that out because of the evidence in the first 3 pieces. So that is a valid argument, and that's an argument by induction, meaning by probability. Argument by analogy, okay, it is self-explanatory. You are using an analogy to prove your point. And that is often the case when we're arguing on that interpersonal relationship level. A husband or a wife or a brother or sister or a child and a parent will use an example, illustration, analogy in order to prove their point. And that's exactly what this argument is. Our 4th out of 5 arguments, it's argument by cause. Okay? The relationship between 2 events, meaning cause and effect. All right? Yes, I'm going to argue by cause. I'm going to tell you that when you do this, it will result in this. Most people that deal with logic need to see the effects of their decision. And that's kind of what this does. It's like, okay, I want to see what's going to happen if I make that decision. And that's how people reason with abortion. They know that when they go in for an abortion, they know they're no longer going to be pregnant. And that's an argument by cause. They're saying, I know that the effect of making this decision is going to be this. And they can say that, and it's true, and it's backed up, and it's factual. So, argument by authority, our fifth and final argument. Argument by authority, it is power, okay? I like to use the word power. It locates its power in the ethos, and this is coming straight from Lisa Ford Brown's text. Argument by authority locates its power in the ethos of the testimony of others you might use to support your claim. When you use this type of argument, you collect testimony from individuals, and the audience will perceive the experts or perceive the people as experts on the topic. Okay? Now, it only works, though, if people are perceived to be experts in this line of thinking. If your audience does not see Dave Ramsey as an expert in finance, they're not going to believe it. Okay? They may not see him as credible. They may not know his background. They may not have experienced Financial Peace University, and they may not believe him, and that's their choice. Okay? It's your job to convince people that Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University is the way to go for that financial freedom. All right, so argument by authority means you are going to heavily rely on credible people to prove your point. You're going to be arguing because you truly believe in the power that these people have. And I'll tell you, commercials do this. Okay, if you think about it, commercials are made up of nothing but persuasive messages. All right, at the end of the day, everybody wants you to buy their product or service. And that's a fact, okay? Or else they wouldn't pay such money for you to see the message. All right, so if they're not selling you a product or service, they're giving you a message. All right, so now you got to look at it like this. If they really feel like Tiger Woods is the expert in the sport of golf, then a commercial with Tiger Woods with this specific driver by this specific company, that is going to say a lot. He is a power player in the sport of golf. And if he stands up and he speaks for a specific company, that resonates with the audience, and the audience will buy into that. That is why some commercials use radio or television personalities or actors and actresses or musicians in order to sell their product. Either they didn't have a good enough campaign the first time around, okay? Think about this. Trim Spa was on the market for a long time. It's very hard to get people to buy into the weight loss now that they've taken the major power player in weight loss out. The number one ingredient in weight loss was the ephedra leaf, okay? The ephedra extract. Ephedra was very powerful. That's what gives you the jittery feeling. That's what gets your heart rate pumping and your blood going, and you burn more calories. Okay, you can only get that in the form of a prescription now, because thank you to some teenagers that decided to take triple the amount suggested and then go to the gym, they died. Therefore, they took it right off the shelf. Never mind the 20,000 people every week that die due to alcoholism, and the alcohol's still on the shelf, but that's another series, a lecture series. Anyway, okay, I had to insert, my personal opinions in there because that's what I usually do in class, as you know. All right, so you got to look at the argument by authority as what it is, okay? These are the 5 types of arguments. And you've really, I keep saying this over and over and over because it's true. You need to make sure that your persuasive speech flows, all right? From looking at your personality to what is your topic and the relationship with your topic, to which appeal are you going to use, which argument are you going to use, and what kind of warrant are you going to use? What are your sources going to mainly represent? Authoritative sources, motivational sources, or substantial evidence? You know, you've got these, your warrants, that's how you describe your sources, all right? So I want you to make sure you understand that your sources that you use will have a running theme to them. They'll either all be very authoritative, they'll be motivational, or they may be substantial evidence, okay? Substantial sources, or you know what I'm trying to say. Now I'm getting tired. Okay, so substantive, motivational, or authoritative. Those are the types of warrants, and warrant is you using this kind of evidence or sources to describe, you know, it's really, that's what your foundation is. Your foundation of your argument is going to be based on how you argue it. I mean, you can argue abortion and gay rights and religion all different kinds of ways. I mean, I have a file folder of certain types of persuasive arguments from the past 12 years. And they're the same argument, but it's really presented all these different types of ways based on the person's personality. Okay, I'm a very bold person. Everything I say is pretty authoritative and backed up and fearless and whatnot. I don't think you would know how to act if I suddenly became timid and shy and passive, right? Right. Well, as I wrap up this final part of the lecture series, I want to thank you for hanging out with me, putting up with all of these different lecture, or all these different parts, because I had to divide up one long lecture into 3 parts. And I will see you in class.